Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a very shiny nose.
Hello friends, my name is Janessa. Welcome back to my channel, Books with Nessa. Thank you so much for clicking on this video and deciding you want to watch it. So today I'm going to be doing the Christmas song book tag. Before we get into it, if you haven't already and you're new here, why not, click that subscribe button if you want. Don't feel obligated to do it. Going into the Christmas song book tag, this was originally created by Haley over at Haley in Bookland. I will leave her original video linked down below, as well as her master Bookmas playlist, masterlist, if that is something you guys want to check out. And let's just get right into the video. Okay. So the first one is, you're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. Name a villainous character you couldn't help but love. This is hard. I mean, is it really that hard? I don't read very many books. Villainous character that I love? I feel like my answer should be Carden from the Folk of Air trilogy, but I also feel like Carden's not really a villain. He's like an anti-hero who's a little lost, But then I'm also like, maybe I should pick someone else. I don't really have villains that I like. I feel like this might be cheating a little bit, but in the Saga series, Lion Cat, he's part of like the villainous team or whatever. And I love Lion Cat. Lion Cat is that cat. They don't say anything besides whether someone's lying or not, but I love Lion Cat because they get right to the point, and that's that. All I Want for Christmas Is You. Which book do you hope to see most under your Christmas tree? I actually feel like I have a few books that I've been wanting to read. And so let me just name a few because I can't pick just one. I'm hoping to see The Poppy War, The Dragon Republic, and Burning God. That would be nice. I would also really like to see The Once and Future Witches, The Black Sun, or I'm pretty sure it's just called Black Sun, Jade War and Jade City. And then also something that I just saw recently and I was like, oh, that cover is stunning. I want to read the book, and that is Deathless Girls. I'm not sure who it's by. I don't know the premise of it or anything, but from the cover alone, I'm down to read it. The next question, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Name a character that overcomes major obstacles and learns to believe in themselves. I think who I'm going to choose for this one is actually going to be Ari from Aurora Rising. She's been frozen for like hundreds upon hundreds of years, and at first she doesn't know like who she is, and she comes into having this power. She doesn't know how to use it. Then there's like this whole journey going on, and yeah, I'm gonna go with her. But then I also kind of want to go with Amari from Children of Virtue and Vengeance, which is the sequel to Children of Blood and Bone, because in Children of Blood and Bone, I absolutely could not stand Amari. I thought she was so annoying, and she complained too much. Even if she was willing to go on the journey to like, what she needed to do, she was just so annoying to me. She was also annoying to me in the second one, but she wasn't as annoying because she was willing to put in the work to do what she wanted to do. And as mad at it that I wasn't that mad at it because girl had her mindset and she wasn't hiding behind other people to do it for her. So that was a nice change for her. Next we have Santa Claus is Coming to Town. A, which character do you think would be on the top of the naughty list? And B, which character do you think would be on the top of the nice list? For the naughty list, I feel like I need to go look at my Goodreads because I always forget the books that I've actually read. Top of the naughty list. Oh no. So I think I'm gonna skip the naughty list question for now, just because I really don't know who would be on the top of the naughty list. Like, there's plenty of candidates, but I just cannot think of who it would be. So I think for top of the nice list, I'm going to go with Morris from The Sound of the Stars. He was just such a sweetheart, and like he was going against his whole race and everything that he believes in to help these humans who hated him. It was just the cutest little story ever. If you haven't read The Sound of the Stars, I highly recommend it. It is just such a cute little story about really what it means to fight against all the odds that are set against you and just becoming your own person. And it was like the best thing ever. I'm really hoping that the author does a sequel, because the way things ended, I need more of Morris and Ellie. But okay, so for the top of the naughty list out of the books that I've read this year, I think I'm going to go with Neferet from the House of Night series. She started out as being this high priestess for, you know, this school of vampires, and was welcoming in all these new vampires who were popping up everywhere. But then come to find out that she was really just an evil bitch who was obsessed with power. She thought she was all holier than thou and better than everyone, and she was just so freaking evil. And I'm like, what adult that is thousands of years old wants to fight and kill a 16-year-old girl and her friends and finds pleasure in doing it? Like, next is Frosty the Snowman. Which book just melts your heart? This one, I kind of feel like a no-brainer, because if you know me, you know that I talk about this book a lot, and that is Heartstoppers, volumes 1 through 3. You can't just accept one of them without accepting all 3 of them. Nick and Charlie's relationship is just so wholesome, and it feels very authentic and real, and I love it. I read the first volume 3 times this year because it's helped me get out of slumps. Sometimes I just need something that's gonna like make me feel like I'm not an emotionless human. I just love it so much. And if you haven't read those, I recommend those as well. And the topics that they talk about, like accepting yourself and knowing when to ask for help. I guess also not put labels on people that they wouldn't put on themselves. It is just very nice. Alice Oseman, I feel like, does an amazing job at creating these characters that feel real. Like, they don't feel like, oh, this is just a character that was made up and this is their story. It feels like these are real people living these real lives. I also feel like I want to recommend her book, Radio Silence, for this question. I read it for the first time this year, and I think it's honestly one of my favorite books of all time. Radio Silence. It was just so nice seeing a YA book that had nothing to do with any romance. There was no romance in it. It was really just about friendship, and I feel like YA needs, well, books in general need more of that. Not everything needs to be romantic. Feliz Navidad. Choose a book that takes place in a country other than your own. So for this one, I'm actually going to recommend A Gathering of Shadows, and I feel like some of you are gonna be like, wait, Janessa, you just said you don't like B.E. Schwab, really? And listen, I think A Darker Shade of Magic was a fluke, because the book, like, I don't really like the book. I could care less about it. But A Gathering of Shadows is so much better. But A Gathering of Shadows takes place in London, you know, which is in Europe. I live in America. And so yeah, I'm gonna do A Gathering of Shadows. If you're like me and you didn't like A Darker Shade of Magic so much, I would still suggest continuing the series because it gets better. Next is It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year. Which holiday themed book do you use to spread Christmas joy? For this book, I actually didn't read it around Christmas time, but I feel like it's the perfect Christmas book. Well, perfect is a bold statement, but it is a really good book that I enjoyed, and I think it's just so wholesome to the Christmas season, and that is 10 Blind Dates by Ashley Elston. So with this book, we have this girl who just recently broke up with her boyfriend, and for the first time in a while, she's spending the holidays with her family. And we see her family as a way of helping her set her up on 10 blind dates leading up to Christmas. And this book, as much as it's like surrounded around a romance type of situation, it's really about family and the family dynamic of being there for each other and knowing that they're willing to do whatever for you. Some of it may be a little questionable, but it always comes from a good place. And it's just such a beautiful book that I'm always going to recommend to people. Next is Sleigh Ride. Which fictional character would you choose to spend the holidays with? It doesn't have to be a love interest, and I already know who I'm gonna pick. It's gonna be Rowan from the Children of Blood and Bone series, because that is my man. He sits on a pedestal, and that's all I have to say. Baby, It's Cold Outside. Which book that you didn't like would you sacrifice to a fire to warm yourself up in the cold? I mean, there's one book that I didn't particularly care for, and that is Want to Go Private. But I also didn't like this book called The Last to Die, I think it is. I read those two books this year, and Want to Go Private was just way too much, and I don't think it did what it was trying to set out to do. And it just kind of became like a really gross, overly described, disgusting story. Like the ending and the message that the character was trying to say, like, that was nice, but the whole story as a whole was just very questionable. And then The Last to Die, I just wasn't into the story. I think I read like maybe 50% of it before I DNF'd the book. But I mean, which one would I sacrifice to a fire? Both, because they were both small books, and if I'm trying to stay warm, I'm gonna need a big fire. The last question says, do you hear what I hear? Which book do you think everyone should read? I had a book, but now that I'm thinking about it, I don't really know. So I actually think that I'm gonna have two options for this one. One is going to be a poetry book, and then the other one's going to be like a regular novel. But the first one is A Black Boy, poems by Tyson Amir. I had to read this book for my African American lit class, and the poems and the stories in here were like just so stunning. But the other book that I have is Breathe Into Me by Sarah Fox. This is the first book that I ever read by her, and it was a pretty good read. Her world is like not that great. She lives in a trailer taking care of her little brother, and she works at a grocery store. She has a stalker ex-boyfriend, and she feels as if there's no way out, but then she meets this guy who is an outsider, house sitting a family mansion off the coast, and he's completely transfixed by her. He's determined to show her that life can offer more than she'd ever hoped for if she believes in herself, and she wants to trust him, but you know, because of the ex-boyfriend, she doesn't. I actually might reread this book because it's been a while since I read it, but this is such a good read. The romance in it is nice. The character development I also really enjoyed, and yeah. And I feel like I've also said this before, because if y'all know me, you know that I can never do what the prompt says and give you just one. I gotta give you multiple. But if you haven't seen my video where I'm giving you guys recommendations about all of the different vampire books, I do also want to recommend the Midnight Breed series by Laura Adrian. Now, if you do love paranormal and you want to find more adult paranormal, the vampires, because that seems to be the majority paranormal books out there, seems to be the majority. But if that is something you guys are interested in and you want to check it out, I do recommend it. It's funny because my grandma is actually the one who got me into that series. So like, shout out to grandma, appreciate it. We love you for it. It's a great series. I've been reading it even when I shouldn't have been, when I was back in middle school into part of high school, but then I had stopped reading it for a while. But now that I have all the books, I'm doing a huge reread of them. But they're just so fun, and they deal with things that aren't just surface level with these characters, and the development is nice. It is, I would say, one huge overwhelming theme in the books, but we do follow different characters because the series is huge. It's 23 books, but don't let that put you guys off. Like I said, we have different characters, so like, it's fine. It's fine. They're like companion novels. A lot of companion novels that are great. I mean, not all of them are great, but like, I mean, they're all great, but like, not all of them are as great as the other ones. You know what I'm trying to say? I feel like I'm rambling now, so I'm just gonna stop doing that. That is going to do it for this week's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, go ahead and leave a Christmas tree. We're in the Christmas season. This is a Christmas book tag. Why not leave a Christmas tree? And tell me what book you guys are looking forward to getting this Christmas. I would love to know. And if you haven't already, you know, leave a comment if you feel so inclined, and subscribe if you want to. You don't have to, but if you want. And I will see you guys in the next video.